I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet, maneuver in signs to let them in, talk up their body, another one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I can play with the pros and act like a rookie, so they overlook me. They're not double up again, none of their nose, none of them cold. They just got lucky but never adapted, so I'm sitting the one that just come with the blows. My enemies keep cutting it close, I let them think that they got me, but what do you know? I had them beat before we ever spoke.
All righty. Joy, you can turn your mic and your camera on and we can get started there. Hello, Joy. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Well, fine. We'll give folks a minute to come from the networking over, but I'm glad you were able to make it tonight and share some of your wisdom for startup founders.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, I am too. I was trying to think of how do I describe you since I've been knowing you, and so I'm not sure what the title is, but you may be the Black Panther for startup founders.
That's hilarious. It's a compliment. I appreciate it. I don't know if I can. That's a lofty title, but I'll try my best.
Yeah. Well, let me take a few minutes and for the new folks and giving them an idea of what Startup in the Blocks is all about. And I don't know how much you kind of research what we've been doing down here in Pensacola and in Northwest Florida. And we basically been doing these weekly events, and so we've been hosting pitch competitions and having quite a bit of participation throughout the year. And kind of our one of our metrics is that we try to figure out a good way to capture the wins, like when we refer people to some of the programs that you're connected to and stuff like that. So we want to get our metrics going and from that. But so we're probably close to about 70 events now. I haven't updated this slide in a while. So we started back in August of last year, and we've been doing weekly events ever since.
Nice.
Yeah. get the standards. So and one of the ways we kind of lure, aspiring founders or future founders into what we're doing here in Northwest Florida, we host these pitch competitions to kind of get people to come learn about it and win a little money to kind of start working on their ideas. So here, we were liking in the area of working with founders, people who were thinking about becoming founders. So we try to just get the people in at the idea stage and kind of get them familiar with what's going on and try to help them learn the best practice. And so your role tonight is part of our best practice training, so to help folks kind of learn that. And so we have some sponsors that have been working directly, with us. Our next pitch competition that is going to be on the 16th, and we just opened up that just this week. And the first bank is is the one sponsoring that pitch competition. And so you probably know Lakeisha French, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and she's been on before, but she wanted to come back and talk about her new startup. Which, but are you also familiar with that business hub that they're doing, the Southeast Business Hub?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so I had her on earlier to to kind of talk about that and try to get all of our startups down here to sign up for that business hub, because they're supposed to be eventually getting to the point where they can support minority businesses and in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and so forth. And so so you noticed anything significant coming out of that yet?
Well, I don't know the latest with the program, so I should probably, it's been just a crazy really this whole year, quite honestly. So I need to circle back to them and get it updated and stuff like that. Just things are moving so fast, just in the world in general. So I don't know the latest and greatest with it, but
the idea is that all the business, minority and women-owned businesses in the Southeast, go to their link and sign up and get registered, and then all the providers like your nonprofit, our nonprofit, and all the people that support these minority businesses, they sign up too, and so they're trying to develop a whole network of organizations like yours, and they're trying to develop the whole network of small businesses, minority-owned businesses. And so the idea is for everybody to go sign up, and so they can get connected to this network and get the help they need to kind of grow their business. That's kind of what the idea is. And we're also going to have the Matthew on here before the end of the year, I hope. He runs the 35 Muse Accelerator program down in South Florida. And so that one, it's an corporate accelerator, but one thing talking to him, I found out was a little unusual. They actually let people in at the real idea stage if they got a good idea and willing to kind of work on it, which is kind of unusual for an accelerator program.
No, it's awesome. That's awesome. I heard about them before.
Yeah. So we're part of their network up here. And so, like I said, we kind of catch people at the beginning. We're here in Northwest Florida. We sort of help make sure there's some inclusion in our ecosystem, and make sure the Black founders or people know where to go to get help. From that standpoint. And so I say we're at the beginning of the funnel because not many people like to work with people at the idea stage. So that's what we do. But we also work with them no matter which stage they are to kind of help them get going there. And so we do these weekly events and pitch competitions and stuff. And so one of the things, just like your startup, we have some internal things we do for the companies that we like that. So what we typically, where we get our pre-accelerator folks from, so like let's say the 10 finalists for our pitch competition, we'll invite them into our internal workings where we do the mentoring. We have this Lean Time IO, which is a project management thing. It's open source, so we use our Microsoft Azure credits to host that up on, and so we can make that available free for the participants. and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Startup Rocket. We that's a paid service, but we partner with them, and that particular. Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, so that one, I used to get this, you know, questions from mentoring startups, and two questions I would get. One was, how do I manage all these ideas I have? And so, Lean Time IO is what I found for that. But it because it's a project manager for startups.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's got all the stuff in it, the lean canvas, everything you can think of that a startup needs, the sprints, everything is in there. And then the startup rocket. And so the question, so like if you're trying to follow this lean startup methodology, startup rocket, it actually has all the kind of tasks that you should do, and so we can let our founders have access to that, and they can document, from all the way from the idea to validating the idea, the concept, and to get to their lean, a minimal viable product. So that's what that product is. And we do office hours, and the newsletter is where we, just like your organization, we try to capture as many offerings, programs, and pitch competitions, and sort of make people aware of them in that way. So, in your opinion, Joey, how often do pitch competitions happen? Would you say, around the country?
Oh well, now in 2021, going into 2022, I mean they're all over the place. I mean, I was thinking back to, I think I was having a conversation with a founder, just thinking back through my days as a founder, and I'm not sure if we'll go into my story or not,
Yeah,
but
for real.
you take 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago, these things are few and far between. I
Yeah.
mean, and when you saw them, it wasn't a lot of times money attached to it. It was just the opportunity to get in front of people.
Yes.
And so now you're seeing opportunities to pitch for, win 5, 10, 50, 150,000, $100,000 is not difficult to get those opportunities.
Yes. Yes.
Or at least to apply. I mean, they're plentiful, and you see it just across the country. And because of the pandemic, I mean, with things being virtual, now it's just exploded. And then when you layer on top of that all the support for diverse founders, particularly for Black founders over the last 20 or so months, I mean, you're starting to see competitions and support just explode.
Yes.
So
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I just want to help people understand what the opportunity is on that. So we'll kill that. And so I guess I typically start off, Joy, and just you taking a minute to kind of introduce yourself, and then we can kind of talk about how we met, and then you can kind of get into your story a little bit.
yeah. So again, yeah, Joey Womack. I'm kind of a natural community builder, ecosystem developer. I am actually from Mobile.
Yeah.
And my father's from the neighborhood called Africatown, where
Wow.
the last slaves came to the city, and so he's environmental activist over there. My mother's from Montgomery, Alabama, grew up in the same neighborhood as MLK, and so just a lot of history and social impact surrounded me growing up, quite honestly. And the reality for me in terms of being an entrepreneur, I never wanted to be one. What I could say is that I was that kid, however, that organized the baseball, basketball, football games in the neighborhood.
Okay.
The reason why I bring that up, and I think it's important, because I always had this vision. I could see things, like I could see, like my vision was to get every single kid in the neighborhood to come together for a giant football game or
Wow.
basketball game or something. And so I got used to like having the vision for something and
Hmm.
then making it reality. And I got really good at it.
Hmm.
Again, it's something simple as organizing games, but it then transitioned over to making things happen when it comes to running my own company. And
Wow.
so then I went over to FAMU. I did start one. I mean, I don't know how much time you
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. We got plenty of time. So
Here's my story on launching a company in college. I launched my first startup there. So my sophomore year in college at FAM, I actually went on internship during the spring semester. So this
Okay.
is, I'm dating myself, 1999. I'm up in New York City
Okay.
working for an insurance company doing accounting. And I
Okay.
got connected to some kids who were freshmen over at Columbia. And I stayed, they put me up, the company put me up in Harlem to pay for my studio. So
Okay.
right, you're familiar with New York. Like one train stop down from where I lived was Columbia. So these
Okay.
guys, 5 guys, they play football. They're all black. They're 5 of these dudes. Their name was J. Their first name started with J as well.
Okay. That's cute.
And then I also got connected to some kids down at NYU.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring that up is because if you know anything about FAMU, the social scene, the party scene was pretty
Yeah.
good. It was
Yeah.
a good
That's
time to be a student.
time. I grew up in Tallahassee.
Yeah, and so what I would do though back in those days, I would use calling cards. I would call my friends back home, say, "Hey, how's it going? It's spring semester. Things are happening, and it's a good time to be to be at FAMU in terms of the parties and stuff and just having
Yeah.
fun." And I would tell my friends back at FAMU, like, listen, like these guys up here at NYU and Columbia, they have fun. It's different than the way we have fun. I mean, we're in Tallahassee, we're at a black college, they're in the big city, they're in New York, they're at a non-HBCU at Ivy League school.
Yeah.
They have fun in a different way, but they have fun. My friends back home couldn't believe me. Well, the friends back in Tallahassee, they couldn't believe it.
Okay.
In their minds, they couldn't. And so when I was also explaining to the kids at NYU and Columbia what it was like at FAMU, they couldn't understand it either.
Right.
They didn't say it wasn't fun because I think they knew it was fun, but they couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So I got invited down to, this is February, Black History Month. I get invited down to NYU to a Black History Month program. It's after work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm leaving work, long day, and it's one of those situations where I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like going to this. I want to catch the train back uptown and rest, long day at work.
Mm-hmm.
Something told me, this voice in my head was like, go to the event. And, and it's oftentimes where you're like, I think all of us hear that, like, to go to an event and something, you make this awesome connection. And it's one of those situations for me. So I walk into the event, it's a panel, and there's like 3 people there, dude. I'm like, are you serious? Just come on, man. Like, again, I'm used to FAMU student events being packed out.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 people in the audience. Wow. I got my suit on. I'm 19 years old.
Yeah.
I got my suit on, but one of the panelists was DJ D Nice.
Okay.
And I knew, I mean, I'm hip hop head, so I mean, not a hip hop head, but I know I love hip hop, but I was familiar with him. And he was talking about his transition from being a rap artist or hip hop artist to doing websites.
Okay.
And so after the panel was over, I went up to him, asked him about websites. He gave me some advice. I'm not even sure what he said, but I caught the train back uptown to Harlem, and I immediately went on my laptop, or not my desktop back technically, and started working on a website.
Gotcha.
Where Black college students and Black students at non-HBCUs could share their college experiences.
Okay.
And so I worked on that for the rest of the internship, the rest of that semester. When I got back to school, I launched it in the fall of 1999. Actually, it kind of spread across the country. I had like correspondence basically in like 4 or 5 different schools.
Yes.
Anyway, then I started pledging and it kind of just dropped off. So that was that.
Yeah.
So, but then fast forward, I could go deep into this story, but know that a few years later, going into my last year in school, I launched a company called Digital Guest List. And so did that full time after graduating, grew it to top 5 in the industry during the time of building the company, moved to Atlanta. And so that's my entrepreneur journey. For the last 12 or so years, I've been focused on building community for diverse entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs alike.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story. So you're saying the rap star turned website builder kind of got you into this entrepreneurship thing?
Yeah. So the through line is, as a kid, used to having a vision about games and stuff like that and making it happen. Going on internship, talking to D Nice, I had this thought around this vision of students from different
Yeah.
schools exchanging information. And because I was used to going from idea to something tangible really
Yes.
quickly, it was nothing for me to go home and learn how to build a website. And I left a lot of stuff out this story. I had
Oh
learned
yeah.
how to build websites in high school.
Yeah.
So I immediately went home and launched that, started working on that website. And then
Yeah.
eventually, I took that experience and, and we had some traction and some interest from large companies as well. And then when it came time to run the actual startup, so I had a website but no company.
Gotcha.
Sophomore and junior in college.
Yeah.
By the time the end of my schooling came and I launched I actually launched the actual start, like actual company.
Yes.
That's the one that took off.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, that's and so, but what you said, that's what being a startup founder is all about. Seeing something that's missing or a problem and just going after it. So like back when you, like you said, when you graduated and launched that new startup, the resources for startups back then compared to now. So would you kind of reiterate that part again?
Oh my gosh, it was nothing. I mean, ironically, I knew a lot of people. I was in a fraternity. I knew a lot of people in general, and I probably knew because to be clear, my network was Black people. Again, I was at FAMU and so on and so forth in Tallahassee. I probably knew all the Black people in technology, and I recruited them to either work or be an advisor and stuff like that. And so, I had a great mentor, or still do, Spencer Ingram in Tallahassee. But the reality is no one had dealt with, they were working with small business owners, which is fine. Like this,
Yeah.
you talk about the early 2000s, they were non internet based companies.
Yes.
Right. And so nobody in my network had any idea about how to support. We didn't call them start to my, I didn't hear the word. I didn't hear the word startup probably until like, around 2006, 07, 08.
Okay.
No, everyone just said internet company.
Yeah.
Right. And so no one knew how to support internet companies back then. So I just had to you just had to go what you just had to know, I just knew how to make stuff happen and figure stuff out along the way. There was no accelerator programs. There were no pitch competitions. There was no pre-accelerator programs. There were no, easy to get with angel investors or venture capitalists or anything like that. Matter of fact, my first little bit of funding was a bank loan. So imagine that.
Yeah.
Launched a startup with a bank loan, had to immediately start, paying that back. And just imagine all the pressure and stuff like that. That's
so just so the audience understands, so like a typical startup founder in this startup ecosystem, would they have to go out to get is it typical that they would get a loan with their startup?
No, I mean, these days,
right?
No, I mean, no one would ever. First of all, nobody would give you any money if we were to start when you have nothing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But yeah, no way, shape, or form is anyone for anything like innovation related. Innovation is code for like experimental.
Yeah,
you got nothing there.
Yeah,
no one's gonna give you no one's gonna give you a loan, nor should you even pursue it.
Right, and so like so now we're in age of the startup ecosystem, entrepreneur ecosystem. So what does a person do that's got an idea? What do they do to kind of get it going?
Yeah, I mean, in a best case scenario, you use other people's money. You convince them to part way their money for exchange of your company in terms of equity. But usually speaking, a few things what you're going to do tactically, you're probably going to go with savings or your own. People put stuff on credit cards, so
yeah,
you can do that, and then you can go also to family and friends to get them to quote unquote invest in your company. I mean, when it comes to communities of color, typically that's a longer conversation in terms of the ability to give, but also the education around with it, because you do have to be clear. You do have communities of color, people of color who invest. They invest in the stock market. They invest in real estate, but they are investing in things that where the expectation to make their money back is either they one understand, and then two it's a reasonable expectation they're going to get their money back in some way, shape, or form. It depends on how much it's going to be.
Yeah. So like when I retired from the government. You were talking about dating yourself. I was at FAMU in 1975 and 76, so before I went down to University of Florida. And which fraternity did you pledge when you were at FAM?
I'm Alpha.
Okay, Alpha, yeah. So my freshman year, there, I was in this electronics program there, and one of the guys, one of my co-students, we were both making the highest grades and straight A's and stuff, and in the electronics program. And then all of a sudden he decided to pledge for Omega, and he literally flunked that semester.
Yeah.
It was bad back then, So I didn't pledge Kappa until I actually get the alumni chapter, because I saw what was going on, and I wasn't about to go through all that. Yeah, but anyway, what I was getting ready to say, my experience, let's say with my startup Cognitive Big Data System. So the reason it's kind of silly, but the reason why I started that, they were holding a $200,000 pitch competition here in Pensacola. So imagine that. How do you get a $200,000 pitch competition? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I said, well, for me, it was a perfect time to kind of introduce this idea about, using AI, because I had some experience, I was doing some consulting, and I saw how people were just getting all excited about it, back in 2014, and that my career in the government, I spent a lot of money on that and researching and developing technology for that. So what happened to me was, through applying for that pitch competition, and of course it didn't, with just an idea, I didn't get selected to pitch, but they still invited the rest of us to actually be in a little showcase of companies. But just by being in that, enrolled in that pitch competition, and I had kind of already heard about it, but had, started the with BizSpark with Microsoft, and so you were getting like free software and free cloud credits and stuff like that. So I was already doing that with my previous startup, and so then I registered for it with my new startup, and then at this pitch competition, I ended up winning. Microsoft has selected 3 companies to give their what they call BizSpark Plus. And which turned out, that I didn't know what it was at the time, but it turned out to be $60,000 worth of cloud credits. You see what I'm saying? So my point is that, that's when I, start getting more and more a hint what the ecosystem could actually do for you. So with $50,000 worth of $60,000 worth of cloud credit, I didn't have to worry about hosting any application. But at the time, I hadn't even developed my application yet. You see what I'm saying? And so I just used it to do a little experiment, and that actually, they bumped that up the following year to an additional $120,000 in cloud credits.
Nice.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But and then from participating in that kind of stuff, I got invited to other programs, and got invited to a program that for veterans that gave like 25 grand.
Nice.
You see what I'm saying? And so,
yeah.
and then from that program, I got invited to another program. It was I don't know if you heard about back when they were doing, what do they call it? Was it Power Up or something out of New Orleans?
Yeah. Power Nola, I think it was.
Yeah. And then they decided to do one down in Miami. They got a bunch of money. Yeah. And so I got invited to that and got a chance to participate in that, but I got a lot of training and stuff. I didn't get any money out of it, but we did have a pitch competition as well. But so what I'm trying to make is I literally leverage all these pitch competitions, and accelerator programs to actually fund developing of my software.
Yeah.
And so that's the ecosystem can actually do that. And the reason why I started that strategy a little bit more diligent, because I noticed, what's the young lady, I think it was Blender or something, but she had this blind, where you submit your resume and they didn't, and so she was going around winning all these pitch competitions. And I think she won Google for women or something like that. But she was literally going around raising money for her software, developing her software. That was her approach that she used.
Yeah.
So there's different approaches to kind of do that.
Yeah, I think it's Stephanie. I think their name's Stephanie Blendor.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean that is a strategy, particularly for diverse founders, because fundraising is so difficult. You kind of piece together winnings, and I think if you heard Jewel Burke Solomon tell her story from her original company, she did something similar.
Okay.
Um, and so it's just
Well,
it's
yes,
one of those.
I didn't actually. I heard, so of course we're familiar with the Park Pit company, but I didn't hear about any of her fundraising on, and stuff like that. So what was her approach?
Yeah, I mean, and part of it, I mean, don't quote me on all these things, but she had to piece together winnings from pitch competitions and similar things, but also go to investors outside of Atlanta.
Okay.
In some cases, I believe like Idaho or North Dakota or something like that.
Hmm.
For funding. But again, don't quote me a number.
Oh
Again,
yeah, yeah.
there-
Well,
there's I think
yeah,
there's like one in Atlanta, but the most of them were outside of Atlanta, but also kind of supplemented that with pitch competitions and stuff.
yeah, yeah. But I think the key point on that is if you can't find what you need locally, you have to see what's outside of your local area that's willing to support you with very few strings attached. So I could tell people, like I participated in several corporate accelerator programs, but like so to me the strategy is you leverage the resources in the ecosystem where you're at, but you also have to be aware of the ecosystem stuff that's in your state and in your region and in the country. And so like I've been able to work with programs like out of San Francisco to London to Poland, and so but it's just a strategy that I use with these corporate programs. But I think so. Like, so let's talk a little bit about how you and I first connected. So I think when I applied for your program at Goody Nation for educational tech nonprofits, I
Yeah,
think
correct.
I think that's when we
Yep.
first, and that's been several months ago. And so, but I think I had already heard about what you were doing, and then I finally got it, and that was earlier this year. I don't remember which month it was, but it was earlier this year. And I did want to so this program you have for nonprofits, but you also have a program for startups as well. You got several programs, I guess. But I want to tell people quickly about my experience and with your program because I haven't really participated much in your program for startup founders other than your founders therapy and stuff like that. But through the Slack channel, I am connected to a bunch of them. But I just want to let you know, working with your huddles on Mondays, every Monday, for our Kukua Institute. Like I made some connection with the other folks in the program, and made some connections in your last event where you matched us up with experienced people that work in corporate America. And so I got a person from I haven't reached out to a person from Facebook to kind of on that VR and metaverse type stuff yet, but I did get connected to a couple of other people that are actually working on helping me out with some stuff. But you may not be aware, that HBCU Force Tiffany, she's actually her nonprofit is actually helping the Kukua Institute through her HBCU program. So we got some graduate students at North Carolina Central actually developing the requirements for us a Salesforce installation for our nonprofit. And so they're literally collecting all our requirements, and they, they're making me feel embarrassed all the stuff we're not doing and should be doing. And and then once these students get through doing the requirements for Salesforce for us, then Tiffany is going to have another group of her students of people actually do the installation for us.
Nice.
Implementation. Isn't that's fan. I wasn't sure you were aware that was going
No,
on.
I didn't know. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, and we a couple of other folks, we've been networking and working on some ideas together, and stuff like that. But I just wanted to give you some feedback on that to let you know. But I want you, if you would, just take a minute you're telling us about why you started Goody Nation and some of the programs you all offer.
Yeah. I mean, the story of Goody Nation starting was interesting. So I want to take it back a little bit to,
Okay.
08, 09, something like that. I Goody Nation essentially started out as a Facebook group. I was in technology. I had evolved my original company that I started in college to be True Technology. And there was this growing group of black founders and black people in the tech ecosystem. And so when Facebook groups first launched, I invited them to that. So what ended up happening was during the process of me raising a little bit of money and launching my startup, I learned about customer discovery. So that's when Steve Blank's book really first came out. And so I'm like, oh, this is gold. This is awesome. Like, I need for all my friends that are in business who are entrepreneurs to understand this stuff. Even if you're not in technology, you can take these same principles and philosophies and apply them to your business. And so
Wow.
what would happen, I would start reading all these articles and I would email them like first to my mentor.
Okay.
And then I would add one other person. And then I would add one other person. Then it got to be like 20 or so people.
Okay.
I'm like, yo, this is way too much. I need a more efficient. And then it got like 50 people at one point. I need a more efficient way to send out this information. So I launched a Facebook group.
Okay.
And that was our first foray into building community.
Gotcha.
And eventually it was like startup founders need to be connected to mentors.
Okay.
And so I started, the name of the Facebook group, here's the kicker, it was called SF35.
SF35.
It was
Okay.
based off a speech that Steve Blank gave at the first like Lean Startup Conference.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Where he told the story of Billy Durant.
Okay.
Apparently, Billy Durant is the founder of General Motors and stuff like that.
Okay.
Nobody ever knows who Billy Durant is because he was the wild, crazy founder who eventually got kicked out of the company by his board.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I didn't know the only Durant that I knew about at the time was Kevin Durant.
Yes, sir.
The basketball player.
Uh-huh.
And so if you remember back in the old school days of the video games when you couldn't like use a player's likeness, like Charles Barkley or like Michael Jordan, you would have like Michael Jordan was SG for shooting guard in his number.
Oh, wow. Okay, gotcha.
And so because I couldn't use Kevin Durant, I would say, so I want to close the gap here. Steve Blank said the School of Entrepreneurs, there should be a school for entrepreneurs. It should be called the Billy Durant School of Entrepreneurship. And I was like, well, I want to find somebody black.
Okay.
I can't say the Kevin Durant School of Entrepreneurship. So I'm going to say SF35.
Gotcha.
But this whole thing around connecting people, entrepreneurs with talented people for advice and investment and customers was 10 years ago. And so eventually I came up with another idea to take nonprofits and match them up with skills-based professionals in tech to solve internal problems through hackathons. And so it was called a hackathon for good.
Okay.
And then we called it, so being Atlanta, Goody Mob, Goody Hack. And eventually Goody Hack evolved into supporting entrepreneurs using the same model of taking entrepreneurs, connecting them with awesome people. And so what I learned is that, or what I observed was all the talk around supporting diverse entrepreneurs in particular, and I'll stop here in a second, was around money. It was about Black founders need money. Black founders need money. Black founders need money, which is true.
Yes.
Right. But you've heard we've all heard this stuff from like our people over the years, right? Your network is your net worth. It's not what you know, is who you know. So what I began to observe is like the network or social capital, not financial capital, is really the top thing.
Okay.
So it's not money's here and everything else here. It's really social capital. And from social capital, you get financial capital.
Okay.
But you also get advice. You also get access to customers.
Yes.
You also get, less stress.
Yes. Okay.
Because you're around other people and stuff like that who've been there, they've done that. and you get better development as a CEO of your company.
Okay.
That's are all the things where social capital lead to. And so for Goody Nation, we're focused on helping founders with social capital. And so we're focused
Fantastic.
on community. So for us, our promise to you is that we'll hold you accountable for making progress while also developing you as a human, as a CEO. And a part of
Okay.
that is relationships.
So that's where the huddles come from. Those weekly huddles come from.
Yeah, weekly huddles is for accountability and community,
Okay.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have 3 minutes to talk about how you're feeling, both personally and professionally,
Mm-hmm.
what you did last week, if you have any significant wins. And we count wins as like basically money or press. Like
Yes.
having a meeting is not a win.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a verbal commitment is not a win, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
going to the goal line and fumbling at the goal line. You got to cross. You got to until it's signed. So you got a signed contract. You haven't
Yeah.
scored a touchdown,
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
right? But more important, then you say, "Listen, here's my plan for the week."
Mm-hmm.
And the thing as an entrepreneur, you can't go into a week just being reactive. If you don't have a plan, like good CEOs don't just wake up and just do stuff. They
Mm-hmm.
know exactly what they're going to get out of the week. They have priorities, they have objectives, they have goals. And if you don't have that, you're wrong. And so our accountability group is meant to hold you to make sure you do that, while also letting you see other people that are going through the same struggles you're going through.
Yeah. So we've been offering our founders this um, this this Lean Time IO, which they do their milestones and stuff in there, but I don't think we've been holding them accountable, like what you're talking about, with your weekly stand ups and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, accountability is big, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're all adults. This is capitalism. So, this is, you got to do you. And so there's
Yeah.
a balance between, you know, holding people accountable while also giving them the leeway just to do their thing. It's like, listen, we don't have a financial stake in your company. We're not gonna scold you for not doing the work or being prepared. At the end of the day, you're good. It's if something happens, that's on you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's not, we're just gonna be, and that's the kind of the culture we try to set. But you start seeing other people that are being prepared. You start seeing the results of that preparedness.
Hmm.
There's a spirit of competition that kind of fosters there as well, like
Well, yeah. Yeah,
in,
let me
in
let me
indirect
comment on
ways.
that. Yeah, let me
Go ahead,
comment on
go ahead.
that because like what I noticed, like with the nonprofit huddle, and I'm these other founders in there, and I'm hearing about the success they're having with their nonprofit, and and some of them are a lot further along than we are with the Kukua Institute, but it really inspires me to kind of work hard and and learn from them, to kind of move forward. So it doesn't. What I noticed, it doesn't matter where you're with a group of people with varied experience, and so you can actually learn from
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
them.
that's the final part about those huddles is people say like, "Hey, listen, here's where I need help."
Yeah.
Right? I need help,
Mhm.
and,
Yeah.
and generally speaking, there's somebody else that's going through a similar situation. They can give you some help, or maybe they know someone who does.
That's
Right?
exactly right.
And,
And so
and yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So and so this is what I try to. So one of the things we do with this event is, but it's hard for me to communicate to the founders the importance of that first hour during that networking, because what happened, it lets you. Well, we have it set for like I think 5 minutes where you can network one on one and meet new founders, or some of the same founders. But to me, that's helping you meet more people to make the connections you need. It doesn't. It's different. The huddle is fantastic. Um, so I'm thinking out loud here. So, that's what one of the things I like about your program. I think I don't know if I ever missed a Monday since I got into your program,
Mm.
where so because I know the value of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it. We appreciate you for being consistent. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, um,
And the other thing is that now I think I may have missed my report this week, but playing catch up. But in that weekly huddle, you have to do a report before the huddle, on your progress, and you have to kind of document what you did last week, and just like you said, what we talk about in the actual huddle.
Yeah, and it helps, right? I mean, here's the thing where for our perspective, we do the same thing at Goody Nation.
Okay.
So as an organization, the leadership team has 3 huddles a week.
Okay.
And we use the same exact format. We report on our morale. We go through, what we've done already, what we're doing. Do we need help? Boom, 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 boom. Right. And then as a staff, we use the same format for our weekly staff meeting.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about. So I'm familiar with the tech nonprofit side of your huddles and your program there. So kind of tell us what you do with the founders, and how do you get founders into your program?
Yeah, the startup founders, we treat them the exact same. We treat everybody the same. So everyone does the same exact thing from a huddle perspective. You could hop into no pun intended, but you could go into a startup huddle and you'll see the exact same thing that happens in your huddle in the nonprofit workforce huddle. That being said, I mean, there are differences in how I think the founders show up and so on and so forth, and because they have different types of companies. So I can just quickly explain. So we have traditionally or really like 3 different type of of founders at a program. You have the aforementioned those that run tech workforce, usually nonprofits. You have those that run tech-enabled small business, and then you have those that are raising venture capital. At least they aspire to. So they're trying to. They're more scalable tech startups.
Okay.
And so because support for tech startups looks a little bit different than those other type of entrepreneurs, usually people are coming to us from other programs, or they're being referred from founders in the program over, or maybe they hear about us in an article or a podcast or on LinkedIn or Twitter, and they kind of do their research and they kind of surf on in.
Yeah, but I think you intentionally do, because I noticed one time I was looking at the AARP program they were doing, and if I remember right, you had partnered with those with them on their program to kind of have their founders, winners or whoever, join your weekly accountability huddles.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like for those people out in the audience that have, so you just explained 3 different things. So which I was familiar with the nonprofit, of course, and I didn't realize the startup thing was 2 different categories. And so the tech enables small businesses. So how would you describe a tech enabled small business for the people in the audience?
Yeah, so I would really describe it as more like a multi-million-dollar a year business. These are the companies that are not trying to become a unicorn. You're not trying to raise venture. You're not trying to do 20% month over month growth. You could have software, but you're not trying to be $100 million a year company.
Gotcha.
Right? You could have a consumer goods product. Right? Again, not trying to do $100 million a year in revenue.
Okay.
So those type of companies. Well, we don't do professional services, at least not now.
Okay.
But usually some type of either software or physical product based company.
Yeah. And so then so you said you also can have a group of the ones that are, have a good chance to become or are really working on becoming a unicorn. I mean, I didn't realize you had some folks in that category in your.
Well, I mean, to be clear, that's aspirational. I mean, I think a lot of founders are like, if you ask them like, hey, how big do you want to be? They'll say, 100. I mean, that's but when I say unicorn, I mean, they're trying to raise venture capital. And for the most part, if you're trying to raise venture capital, you have to aspire to be a unicorn or have to be at least on that track.
Gotcha. So like, so do you have open applications all the time, or do you, or how, if somebody new wants to get involved in your program, what's the process they need to go through?
Yeah, so we there's no kind of official start date or really end date to the program.
Okay.
We accept founders on a rolling basis every month. I mean, right
Okay.
now we're kind of holding off on new founders.
Okay.
I mean, you can apply, but we're just to kind of taking our time just because we've had a lot of founders come into the program over the last 3 months,
Okay.
and so we'll kind of get back to people in December and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we've been telling folks about you all, and recommending people, reach out, and stuff. So, but yeah, it's just there's so many opportunities for help, and I don't think people realize these relationship, what you call social capital. So for example, for my nonprofit to get a Salesforce installation, not the cost of Salesforce, but just to get it tailored for my nonprofit, I got to pay a minimum of $5,000,
Yeah,
to get that. So here I met a person, that's running another nonprofit, and so we're literally getting, some partial implementation, at no cost. And but the
right.
neat thing about it is the college students, they're learning how to, be a consultant and collect business requirements for Salesforce installation, whether it's a for-profit company or a not-for-profit company.
Yeah, I mean, and that's valuable,
Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah, and so that's so yeah, but yeah, so I was trying to so what I've noticed, that you have you and Goody Nation has a lot of social capital, and so I try to encourage people to get connected to organizations and people that are connected to a lot of resources. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's our thing. That's our thing.
Yeah. So do you all do like any kind of like, so I noticed you in one of the huddles I was in, you all were announcing the Google for Startup selections. Now you didn't tell any details who got selected, but you were already familiar with that, I guess, because you're friends with Jewel. Or what relationship do you have with Google for Startups?
Yeah, so we're a partner with them on the Founders Fund. So we're the official partner for them on the fund. So we distribute the money is their program, but in terms of the cash, we're there
Uh-huh.
to provide the capital to the actual companies, but we actually distribute it to them, and then we
Wow.
also
Okay, I didn't know
provide
that.
our programming to support for a year.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so that's a really powerful partnership. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes. So give me some examples, some other partnerships you all have to help like founders.
Yeah, so you mentioned the one with AARP in the past, where we had the Wealth Gap. We have one with Deloitte where they do pro bono work for some founders. So they essentially take on a founder for 3 months and treat them like they would any one of their big companies.
Yeah, so the
Uh,
guy from Deloitte, he's actually looking at what we're doing with the nonprofit now, and gonna, I'm gonna meet with him soon to kind of. I gave him a bunch of information, and so he's reviewing the information. So we're gonna get back together and kind of go over some of that stuff.
oh yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been an amazing partnership. We work with Verizon. We did a mini accelerator with them earlier this year on helping founders with their marketing and communication needs. We partnered with Venture Atlanta to do a series of educational workshops across the Southeast.
Okay.
We have some pretty big announcements coming out. We'll actually have one I'm pretty excited about next week
Okay.
on a program around
Okay.
product strategy, like it's essentially accelerator.
Hmm.
I'll keep the brand secret for now. But
Okay.
yeah, those
Okay.
are just some of the brands we work with.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And and through I will also mention you all have like a Slack channel that the participants, the founders, can participate in, and there's a lot of good information that's passed in there, and so what do you call that thing where you got where you can get connected to mentors and stuff. You got a product, for that as well.
Yeah, we have a founder library where you can go in and select people to get kind of connected with and things of that nature for advice. So, yeah, and then we also we list, like you said earlier, different pitch competitions and other programs
Yes.
we can kind of take advantage of.
Yeah, and so, but like so there's a bunch of unique things that you're doing, but just in general, there are a lot of programs or organizations in Atlanta and around the country that actually do maybe not the same thing, but they do things to help startup founders. Correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm looking to see if there are any questions out there in the audience. I'm totally shocked. We must be doing pretty good. I don't see any questions yet. Yeah. So if there's any questions out in the audience there, please go ahead and type them in the stage chat. Let me make sure there's let's make sure they're not anywhere else. So I can. So I don't see any. So like I guess a couple of weeks ago, you and I participated in a pitch competition where we were judges. So so how did you meet Boris? That's another really good connection there.
Well, I know actually Evan Leapart. So
Okay.
And so Evan's in the program. He's in Goody Nation, but I met him 1-2 years ago now.
Okay.
At least over a year ago. Through another pitch competition, one with a Revolt Summit. And so now he's in the program, but he also obviously he's a part of the group that runs Black Men Talk Tech. And so they asked me to be a part of it.
Yes. Okay. So I just got a message from Patrick says check question and answers. Okay. So like Quinn say, are you taking introduction meetings?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Yeah, I just got to get past the month of November. So we got to be for Giving Tuesday, and then I gotta take December off. But yeah, I'll start taking stuff, in December and maybe then in January. Yeah, I just got to get past these next few weeks.
Yeah, I definitely understand the burning the yeah. So I'll put your LinkedIn page, in the chat so that people can at least try to connect with you that way. But see, that's important too, connecting on LinkedIn. But because you post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and so that you're actually getting information, a lot of information that way about what you all are doing and the opportunities that actually come out. Let's see, somebody anonymously, and I didn't even know you could do an anonymous question on Hopin. So they keep changing stuff, so I can't keep up with it. Have you considered that not all of us are adults possible? So I don't know what this question is. So is this person trying to say they're not all of us are adults? So I'm not sure. I guess they did anonymous because they don't want to I'm not sure what that's all about. Does that make sense to you at all, Joy?
No, all of us are. I think maybe the comment I said around, hey, we're all adults here, and so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what the exact question is, or I think what I was saying about the spirit around the adults comment is that, hey, listen, like no one's gonna hold your hand.
Yeah.
And so and this is really true as an entrepreneur, like no one's the only person you really got to report to is yourself at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, you may have investors depending on the type of company, but there's no one's going to force you to do anything. Like entrepreneurship, one, is a crazy choice in terms of a pathway, but it is a choice, right? Yes. And so when you make that leap, you make that decision, no one's forcing you to do it. Right. Like, just like when you were in school, like until you're like 18, you're forced to be in school, or 16, whatever the age is. Right.
Mm-hmm.
No one's forcing you to sit in that chair they're called founder or CEO.
Yeah.
And so that's how we treat people. Like if you don't want to come to the accountability group huddle or report out in a certain way or plan, that's on you. Again, it's not hurting us. It's
hurting you. Yeah. So you mentioned, with the Google for your partnership with Google and you all handling the money, the accelerator programs that I participated in, they you submitted your milestones and your cash distribution was based on you kind of accomplishing your milestone. Have you seen that same approach used?
I have seen it before. It's
Hmm.
obviously not something that we use, but I mean, I have seen it before. I've seen other program models where there's money available and is only distributed to like two companies in a cohort, let's say of 10,
Yeah.
but it's peer voting. So
Oh wow.
imagine
Okay.
in your huddle, Lloyd, like everybody has a vote on who they want to get, let's say $100,000, but you can't vote for yourself, right?
That's yeah.
Um, I've
I
seen
never
that
heard
model
that
before.
before. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Village
so
Capital uses that.
okay. So like in the Google for Black founders, so if you get selected, no, like there's no kind. I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. So like they just give you the money, or if that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. Is there?
Yeah, yeah, it's a cash award. There's no strings attached.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
So, but I think I've been having a little challenge with people down here in Northwest Florida, helping them understand that these programs you can apply for them, and if you kind of learn these best practices and work on your startup, and get some customers going there, and you literally can, get money with no strings attached to help you grow your startup.
Yeah, no, it's definitely possible. I mean, the big thing, what I can say is that from evaluating tons and tons of applications is you know, folks want to see these evaluators want to see a little bit of progress,
Yes.
right? You start applying to programs, and you say like, oh, here's my idea, and then when they say, well, how far along are you, or how much money you've made? It's zero revenue or very few users. You know, progress is the thing that's going to make people sit up in their seats and give and give you even more opportunity. So
Hmm.
focus on wins and getting money through the door and customers and users, and it solves a lot of problems after that.
Yeah. So what I've noticed down here, and I would like you to comment on this. So let's say you apply for a program 1 year, and you haven't made a whole lot of progress, but you at least apply to kind of get your name out there, and then you the next round come around, you done made progress, and people see the progress you made between the last time and this time. How important is that?
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, that's super important. So the thing
Yeah.
is, when you start meeting with people, whether it's an investor or somebody else in the ecosystem, they want to see you make progress when the next time they see you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it could be a week, it could be a month, 6 months, or a year. If
Yeah.
you're in the same place or haven't made a lot of progress, whenever that next meeting is, they're automatically going to start saying, you know what, I don't think this is working out. So what? Because the calculation they're doing in their head, it's like a seesaw. Like on
Hmm.
one hand, you got potential, which
Yeah.
is no evidence. On the other hand, you got evidence. And so when
Hmm.
you start out, you got nothing but potential, and then like up here, and then like zero evidence. But as time goes on, eventually you got more evidence and less potential. Now, then the case is like, well, what does that evidence say? Is the
Hmm.
evidence saying like you're bringing money through the door and a lot of customers, or is the evidence simply saying that you can't make it happen? And
Yeah.
so that's the calculation they're doing in their head.
Yeah. And so like it. So I've run into a couple of founders that are building stuff, but they're not. They're keeping the secret of what they're building. They're not getting exposure in the ecosystem, and then all of a sudden they finish building their stuff, and then they want to get support, but nobody knows them. If you're new to the ecosystem and nobody knows you, that's not good either.
Correct.
You have to kind of get involved as early as possible. Vercel has a question, and then so he starts off as saying, first of all, service of all uh, the oh 06.
He's the alpha. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, and he likes that black and gold. And then he said, "How do you see Goody Nation evolving over the next 5 years?"
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, before this, I had a board meeting. I mean, I think a lot about this, right? And I don't know if I can say over the next 5 years, but I do think over the next 3 years. I mean, it's interesting. There's a few things I'm kind of playing around with, but what I can technically tell you is that thinking more about supporting other types of diverse founders than Black founders. We've always been open, but we have mainly Black founders in the program. So what does that look like? But more importantly, getting more ingrained to those communities to understand the nuances and figure out the best way to support different types of founders. And that diversity can be across several different ways. It can be gender, it could be ethnicity, it could be geography, not just in the United States, but across
Yeah.
the world.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't mention in my life's goal is to help 1 billion people. And
Wow.
so that's not going to happen in the United States of America. And so you
Yeah.
start thinking about all these, like, what does it really take to support a founder in Africa or in Latin America or in Europe or Australia or something along those lines?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty daunting, think about how to best support them. So those are that's one way, but also thinking about how to best support founders in various industries or verticals. And then
Mm-hmm.
finally is, what is the balance between virtual programming now and then in-person programming?
Yes, yes.
So
Yeah,
also considering changes in the market, right? We've seen over the last 2 years tons and tons of capital. Eventually, I think it's going to dry up. And what does that look like? What does support for diverse founders look like? We've seen a lot of support over the past 18 or so months with George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Shifts in how that's going to happen. I'm predicting shifts will happen. And so what does that look like? Again, work environment. So all these things kind of factor into what I think is going to happen over the next 3 years. Now you start talking about 5, it kind of gets kind of fuzzy. So I'm still playing around with it, but I am thinking about it.
Yeah. So like you mentioned all this the funding that's came out since the George Floyd and all these different things, and I just stopped counting, after I got the $5 billion of funding set aside for Black and Brown founders and from all these different companies. And to me right now, it's a question of which corporate American company doesn't have a program for Black and Brown founders. It's just like, it's just, and just, but what I try to communicate is you have to learn the startup methodology and you have to work it. And so if you don't do that, you can apply, this money is just going to stay sitting there, and people are not going to, you're not going to get any. But you have to be doing the methodology and making progress in order to be able to apply to get in these programs to get the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's kind of, so you got any parting words for founders out there that your best advice, and then we'll close on out here.
I just try to speak from my heart when I get asked this question sometimes. So what I just say was on my heart right now is, listen, it's November. If decisions haven't been made for the rest of the year, you probably got a few more, like one more week, right, before people
Mm-hmm.
gonna shut it down for the rest of the year and holidays and stuff like that. So effectively, 2021 is over.
Mm-hmm.
You should already have a plan for Q1 and Q2 of next year.
Okay.
What are your priorities and goals in order to
Mm-hmm.
achieve the goals you want to achieve? And so if you don't have that, you're in the wrong.
Okay.
If you don't have that, you're in the wrong. So that's my thing right now. So close out the year strong.
Mm-hmm.
Loop back to people you've had conversations with this year and probably even last year, because since the pandemic hit, all this time has kind of rolled in together. It's like one big year almost.
Yes.
Rekindle conversations. Make sure you have a plan for Q1 and for Q2. You have clearly outlined priorities, objectives, and goals.
Fantastic. That's yeah, because get the year off to a fantastic start. So amen to that. So what Joy, I know your schedule is really busy. So I really appreciate you taking the time, and I can't wait till you start being able to open back up and get some more founders in there, so we can get some more founders, from here in Northwest Florida. But back when you were admitting people, I told people about the program. So if they didn't apply, that's kind of what the way opportunity work. It doesn't last forever. You have to hit it when it's good, to do it. And right now the programs are out there to support Black and Brown founders and all founders, really, to be honest with you. So why not take advantage of them? So thanks a million, and we really appreciate what you're doing. And so in the new metaverse world, we have to. I guess I still would say, based on what I've saw and from what your work and what you're doing, I think I would say, like at the beginning, I say you probably are the Black Panther for startups. And I really appreciate all the stuff you and Goody Nation is doing, and you definitely got my vote on what you're doing with all this relationship building and stuff you're doing. All right, thanks a lot. We'll see you in the future. All right, take care. Thanks.
You too, buddy. Peace.
Bye bye, everyone. We'll see you all next week with Startup on the Blocks.